Hello, everybody, and welcome to ZPR. My name is Franck Zanu, and today something I would say is part of my life. And I waited until the noise and the fireworks and everything comes and dies down, then I talk about it. I like doing it that way. And so today, of course, the 7th of July, 2026, if you were born this year, and I'm speaking to somebody who was born this year, but maybe you would listen to this later, then you were born on the anniversary, the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. Those of us living just July 4, some 10, 20 years from today, you have a discussion, you said, oh no, I know where I was when America celebrated a quarter of 1,000 years. Yeah, 10, like, some people, two things we say in America. Where were you on 9/11? People remember exactly where they were. Where were you when Kennedy was assassinated? It comes up in conversations a lot. I knew where I was when Kennedy was assassinated, something like that. So 10, 20 years from today, you would say, I knew exactly where I was on July 4, the year 2026, when America celebrated 250 years. Now, somebody would think 250 years is chicken change. It's not. That is a long time for a country to sustain, to remain, to resolve, to keep its promise made to its own citizens and to the world. And the United States have done it. Good or bad, it has hit 250, a quarter of 1,000 years. Massive changes. Just 3 days ago, I was going through some catalogs to see what has happened between 1776 up until present day. And I began to come up, Encyclopedia Britannica, the American Library of Congress has a whole catalog of things, and you would know in 1871, thereabout, started revolutions and empires across the globe. So 1776 marked for many people to remember that this very iconic country was born, so to say. And it's 250 years now. In 1789, boom, the French got up one day and they have a revolution. That is 1789, the French Revolution, followed by 1804. In the Caribbean, this is a very important date because that was the date of the Haitian Revolution. In 1839 to 1842, the massive opium wars across the globe, especially hitting Asia very, very hard. 1861 to 65, of course, this country today, there are monuments across this country celebrating or remembering the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. 1884, the Berlin Conference. Africa, a continent of 54 countries, was born. Tribes collided on each other to become a country. Quite a history. And then, ladies and gentlemen, 1914 to 18, the First World War. Many millions perished. We thought that was over. 3 years later, the Russian Revolution. Those who can remember, the peasants of Russia getting up and saying, enough. Who was that? Tsar Nicholas. That was his end. As if that was not enough, 12 years only later, the Great Depression of this world. Many people today still write about it, research it, and talk about the Great Depression. That wasn't enough. 1939 to 1945, we as humans experienced the most deadliest conflict on earth. Have we learned much? I doubt it. And that gave birth, 1945, to the forming of then now called the United Nations Organization, the League of Nations. 1945, the birth of the United Nations. 1945, all the way to 1960, right after the formation of the United Nations organizations, decolonization across. In Africa, Sub-Sahara started with Ghana, and then it caught on like wildfire. The Cold War, you all remember, beginning 1947. That was the first time a war would be fought without bullets, but lives were taken everywhere. Countries collided on each other, and the Soviet Union was a deadly name for anyone to remember. Then followed up, 1969, the moon landing. And the United States of America, with its iconic flag, was all throughout all this. Then 1989, Ronald Reagan, the wall of Berlin fell. And then 1991, the World Wide Web, internet, boom. Our lives changed completely in 1991. 2001, 9/11. 2022, Russia invades Ukraine. And as I speak with you, we don't even understand where AI begins and where human intelligence. We are in an AI revolution. And America has been a champion in some of them, a villain in others, a hero sometimes, the United States of America. Like it or not, this country has survived and attracted of class, caste, religion, culture, personalities, characters from around the world into this country. Yes, the United States, with all its good or bad, deserves to be celebrated. The United States as a country, it's the only one I know in my lifetime that inspires individuals into creativity, art, music, form. Folklores across West Africa and East Africa have used this country's name in songs. Quite interesting. You go to the Caribbean countries were colonized by European countries, led by the English, of course, and Spanish and French and Dutch. But you know what? You speak to any citizen of these formerly colonized, European colonized countries, and all their dream is not to go to UK that had a monarchy, or Belgium that had a monarchy, or the French that had a monarchy. No. Their dream is to come to the cowboy country, the United States of America. Go to West Africa, the 12 or 14 countries that forms the ECOWAS. They were all colonized by Portuguese, French, and English. But speak to any young person, they never dream of going to the country that formerly colonized them. Everybody's dream is to come to the United States of America. There is a musician from Namibia who sang this unbelievable, beautiful reggae sound kind of music that says, when I was a young boy, I dreamed of going to America. You go to any corner of this world, all the way in the hinterlands of Nepal, India, Benin Republic, you can say names like Ukraine and people wouldn't know what you're talking about. You might even say names like Russia and not everybody knows what you're talking about. Some may think it's the name of a car or a truck. But if you say America, every child who can speak, who can understand, knows this country. And you know what is funny? Many personalities, characters like Muhammad Ali, and put the name on the map of the world. John Wayne, Elizabeth Taylor, Sammy Davis, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan. The list is long, endless. Yes, the only country on earth where star celebrities, performers who defied human capability, they were born in America. It's an iconic place. You either love it or you hate it. But during the celebration, 4th of July, 2026, I spent the whole day weekend going on the internet to see what people are saying. And it broke my heart somewhere, but I thought, yeah, it comes with the territory, as they say. Some were still bashing this country. Commonly, they were posting pictures of slavery and how the United States white people stole the land and killed, genocide, the Indians. And they took the land. They didn't say take the land or conquer the land. They stole the land from the Indians and killed the Indians. This was just trending everywhere. And some people were posting, don't forget, on that very day, 1776, blacks were still slaves in the United States of America. It's all true. But before I continue, there is a very important story I want to tell you. And this is the true story. And my grandfather will repeat it all the time to remind me to think of something. You know, there was a village. There was a village, and with this man, next to the village was a very wealthy man. He had a car. According to rumor, the car didn't belong to him. He murdered a family and stole the car and his home from that family. Blood on his hands, and he lived next to the village. But you see, there were families in the village. When their kid was sick and they need to find a place to rush the kid to the nearest clinic, they called this man who had a, quote, stolen home and a stolen car and say, come and drive my kid is dying. And the man would say, of course, just give me a second. Put on his shoes and pick the kids to the hospital. When women were pregnant and there is no car to drive them to the maternity ward, they rushed to him and begged him, and he said, of course, wait for me. And he would drive them in the stolen car to the hospital. When people didn't have food in the middle of the night, they knock on his door, he opens his door and he give them bread. But you know what is funny? My grandfather would say, whenever anyone says the name of this guy, the same villagers who knocks on his door for a ride when their wives were sick or their kids about to die or when they are hungry, you see that man there, he stole that house and killed the family and took the car. My grandfather would say, then why are you participating in blood money? And the Buddha would warn, my father would tell me time and again, be careful. Humility simply means there is no individual on this earth. Let one stand out and raise his or her hands to say, any human being can rise up to the pinnacle of his or her dreams, really rise up to the pinnacle of his or her dreams, and can confidently boast that he or she never stepped on any toe, knowingly or unknowingly. According to the Buddha, that is impossible. And he asked, have you taken your long, glorious, beautiful walk and you can boast that you never stepped on an ant, a worm, or some creature? Can you? That is humility. Sometimes unknowingly. Let me repeat, no single individual has risen to the pinnacle of his or her dreams and can boast that in doing so, by doing so, they never step on a toe of anybody. Most of the times unknowingly. So also, no nation on earth that has been able to grab a space and create an industry, industrialize that environment for the betterment of the life of its people, its citizens, and to those who would come later on, and did not step on anybody's toe. It's impossible. Not Russia, not Germany, not the UK, not France, not the United States, not China, not Japan. There is no way any nation could build themselves to this level we are talking about. The G8, the most industrialized countries on earth, they could not get there without stepping on a toe. In your own humble way also, whatever you have accomplished in a small way or big way, you couldn't have done so without stepping on anyone's toe. And anyone who can tell me I'm wrong, for any country to rise up to the level of the United States of America and never step on a toe unknowingly. And I'll show you an angel. I will show you an angel who never does anything right. Or I show you the devil who never does anything wrong. That is human nature. We all, one time or the other, we have stepped on somebody's toes. We didn't know. But because it is the nature of the thing, you are forgiving. So for those who think that the best thing that is right to do is to point to the fault, only the fault of this nation called the United States of America, well, shame on you. You know why? If you really believe that you have the moral fortitude and the ethical principles of your life that gives you the proper conduct of life, oh, I bet you, if you knew your friend stole a car, you won't go joyriding in that car. you're participating in blood money. So if you keep saying the United States killed people, stole the land, killed Indians, and you really feel sorry for these victims, why are you here participating in blood money? Look at the good you've done back home in your country where you came from with the money you made from this place. United States remain the only country that has given the largest number of scholarships to Asia, Africa, and Caribbean countries. You know what is funny? Obama's father got a scholarship from the British, but they asked him to study in America because they know what that meant. Many of the African leaders who got independent studied, sometimes Oxford, Cambridge, Leeds, Manchester, on scholarships. Till today as we speak, it's a celebration in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Mali. If your son or daughter, which they do all the time, get scholarship from the United States to study here. I came here on scholarship. Why did I accept to eat from the blood money? So you see, why are you here then? Why did you come? You knew that it was blood money, right? You knew some people were killed. But when you wanted to reach the pinnacle of your life, maybe have what is called the American dream, a white picket fence home, this is where you came. Then why are you here and still pointing to the wrong of this country? Or as it was told in the Bible, the story of Magdalene, Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ. We want to stone her because she did something wrong. It's true. But next time, ye who have never stepped on anybody's toe, have never done anything wrong, get on social media and point your fingers at the United States of America while you are still here. Just ask yourself in your own private moment, of what good is it? Seriously. Have you ever looked at a man, as it was in Victor Hugo's case, the sergeant who was being sought after, regardless of all the good he has done, build nunneries and monasteries, schools, but no, we want to get him from that one wrong thing he did. I'm not justifying it. I'm giving you the story. Le Miserable, Victor Hugo, powerful story. Next time you come on Broadway, you should go see it and learn a thing or two. This country has been the hope for many. Oh, I'll tell you, many tribes, smaller tribes in many countries in Africa and Asia, they would have been crushed today as we speak. Sometimes, just at the mention of the United States stepping in, they withdraw. America has paid a lot of price. I'm just reminding us as human beings that we also know. They say the joy of one makes another miserable just by looking at you being so happy. Even if you got that happiness by your hard work. Just somebody who cannot attain that level of happiness by looking at you. So your happiness makes someone miserable. You're not responsible, no, but it's the nature of life. In 2007, Kenya finished an election and people contested the result. Oh, not in the court of law, oh no. Machetes and baseball clubs and guns and knives came out. It is still today remembered in Kenya, the post-election violence besieged the country. Within few weeks, thousands were killed. Until today, many more thousands are now classified misplaced population. Misplaced means their parents were killed and they didn't even know where they came from because they were too young. So they have to keep them. Some of them now are lawyers. One of them was my lawyer for 5 years when I lived in Kenya. Brilliant lawyer. If you're ever going to Kenya, you need someone to help you with your real estate, renting, and anything, you just reach out to me. but he's a member of the misplaced population. Do you know how that conflict came to an end? It was under George Bush Jr. Condoleezza Rice was then the Secretary of State and had to travel to Kenya and use the American diplomacy, call for the end of the conflict, or every single government official, you would lose your American green card or visa, and the conflict stopped. People were saved. Until it was recently shut down, the United States, USAID and Peace Corps. I knew one personally. My village have never had anyone to teach sign language. You can't speak and hear, you're finished. Tina Singleton, a Peace Corps worker, lived in an uncomfortable, unpleasant condition, but loved what she did by teaching young people in Benin Republic sign language. Today, some of them are using it to make a living. And we have to think. Sometimes when you look at a man who have done some bad, like Robin Hood, right? When you talk about Robin Hood, no one talks about this ghetto kid, what he did. Some people said he stole, but to feed the poor. It's up to you to judge. That is the nature of our existence on earth. And America has played its part. Yes, it's a country that is incomparable. That is why the name is so popular. But today, we've allowed our own emotions to consume us to the point that we live here, we make life better here. Some of us have run away from persecutions in our country, torture in our country. We sought for asylum and refugee, economic or war, you name it. But the United States would open its doors and say, come in. In fact, the Statue of Liberty proclaims, give me your poor and your weak. Well, it's fancy. I'm not defending it. I'm just describing things. And he has done it. For over 35 years, the United States and Germany were the only two countries with a lottery visa. 51,000 allowed, selected randomly by computer to come to this country. Everybody have their story when they arrived here. My graduation speaker was Henry Lee, if you guys remember him, the O.J. Simpson forensic expert from Hartford, originally from Taiwan, arrived in this country at the age of 26 or something with a wife, 2 kids, and $36 in his pocket. And he became the most celebrated, globally celebrated forensic expert. And O.J. Simpson's case shot him to stardom. Dr. Henry Lee spoke at my graduation. His was the American story. Obama was the American story. Yes, and many more from Somalia who would come into this country and within 8 years be on the board of the most powerful house, Congress, is the American story. Ilhan Omar, if you are listening, that is the American story. Dream Olajuwon, tall, handsome, strong basketball player. But this country is where the dream, and many more, my friends, many more. The Ozzy Osbournes, the Eric Claptons, they knew this is the place dreams are made, and they came, and they did not fail. It's America. That little cowboy crappy country is now 250 years old and have lived to see it all. It's America. Today, if you're not hearing sentiments like, oh yes, this country did live up to its dreams when it says, if you come, and you come with your will and your inspiration, I will make you. Some will say, no, we helped build this country because it sounds better to say so. No, my great-great-grandfathers were forcefully taken away from Africa as slaves. They did not contribute to the building of America. No. Contribution is voluntary. Contribution is voluntary. Donation is voluntary. So when you go to church on Sunday and they pass the basket and you decided to reach your chest pocket and put some money, you have contributed. You've donated to the church. It was not forcefully taken from you. So if my great-great-grandfathers were stolen from Benin and Ghana and Sierra Leone and Senegal and wherever, if they were still alive and says, we contributed to the building of this nation, I would say, then don't ask for reparations. Because nobody gives anything for free and turn around and say, but you got to give me an award or a reward for it. That's why they call it donation. You don't go on a voluntary trip to help build a church somewhere and come back home and say, but where is my pay because I contributed? No. Let's keep history. Words do matter. Even immigrants who came here didn't come here to contribute to the building of this country. No. You came here to work in this country. I came here to work in this country. So I work for a private organization or a government public organization, and I get in return the reason I came here. Economic betterment, cultural betterment, or anything. You didn't come to contribute. You came to work in the United States of America because you believe your talent, your skills, your experience can be better used here than anywhere else. So you came where it can be used. You did not come to contribute to build this country. So let's use words properly. So if you're asking for reparation, simply means that you did not contribute. It was raped out of you. So let me give some few analogies. A woman who was kidnapped, or a man who was kidnapped against his will and kept in a basement for sexual pleasure for 3 years. If by some lucky stroke you dashed out, would you return and say, oh no, I contributed to his sexual pleasure for 3 years? No, you didn't. Because he didn't do it with your consent. He raped you or she raped you. That's it. Nobody has been taken to court for ever being asked to make a contribution, and he or she made a contribution and then turn around and say, no, it was forced out of me. No, it's not true. People arrived in this country. They saw the land, they saw the potential of the land and its location. They were people who escaped their previous environment they didn't like. Well, the guy who is running away from danger, it's a danger himself. Don't try to stop in his way because he's running away from danger. So the people who were running away from the English land, the UK, they were running away from danger. They were dangerous. And when they see a place where they think they can realize their dream, well, be ready to fight. That's where the social Darwinism comes in. The survival of the fittest, my friend. No one has been taken to court ever for that. So here, they took the land. And they proved it. They built it. They formed a foundation. That is the important thing you need to remember, which I can never contribute to that foundation, which means the principles they laid down came from within them and their worldview. That I cannot contribute. So when the foundation is already established, you only come to dance on the platform. The stage has already been set. The rest of us, we came to sell our skills and gain from it. The building of this country is not in the brick and mortar. It's not even in the Empire State Building. It is in the principles with which the foundation was laid. And that, my friends, we the immigrants and my great-grandfathers who were stolen, we can never play part of it. That is what building a country is known. Not because they used your labor force, raped your labor force to build bridges. You see, but I understand why some people would rather use the word, we contribute to the building of this country. We help build everything in this country. One time I went to a rape workshop because I was writing an article on people who've gone through real trauma, especially sexual related trauma. And what I heard was quite profound. Some women, some men would never report rape, not because they are afraid they will not be believed. No, they said that accounts to a very little percentage of people who would say, I may not be believed. It is because the shame. Shame for you to announce to the world that this man or this woman had power enough to take my power away from me by taking something that is so sacred to me, something that I should only give when I want to give it. Sex. That is the only thing we have control over. It's sacred. It's close to us. You can take my wallet. You can cut my arm. And I'll still be fine. Because somebody succeeds to take that little innocence from you, it's bad. So some people feel that their power was taken and they cannot announce it. They are ashamed that this person took my power. The same it is with people who have ever been in slavery, subjugation, oppression, or any form of abduction. If they think they use the word, I was a slave, it's demeaning that somebody had power over me to make me do things I would have asked for money to do, I would have asked for a contract to do, I would have asked for an MOU to do, but this man got me to just do it for free for years. That means somebody could take my power, and I don't want to announce my weakness to the world. No, citizens of the world can understand if you announce it. There are people with heart who can understand. But that, of course, human ego is right. People would rather choose these words, we helped build this country. We contributed to the building of this country. Then why are you crying for reparations? Then tell Ibrahim X. Kendi to find a different job. Then tell Don Lemon to start a different storytelling. Today, leaders in Africa are on the world stage pleading on behalf of people they never met or saw, asking for reparations, where their countries are flooding and killing citizens and spreading disease all over the place. Why are you asking for reparations if you contributed to the building of the place? Words are important. A raped victim did not contribute to the sexual pleasure. You didn't even sacrifice. It was taken away from you. It is the greatest sin anyone can commit before the eyes of the universe. When you take something so precious away from someone. For me, I'm a naturalized citizen of this country. I have contributed a lot to my immediate community where I live, which is my zip code, either by working with state political figures or city political figures to enact some common sense laws, volunteer, mentor, sit on committees and boards for my little zip code. I have come to personally know my district representative, to whom I call for coffee sometimes so I can share some things I've observed. He can take it into consideration. That is about the contributions I make in my little. But after traveling the world and coming to this country, I knew I would pursue the naturalization course. And I did. And I chose to remain and become a citizen of the United States. I have only one citizenship. I was born in Benin Republic. Left only when I was 5 years shy. Never went back until I started my organization and I started taking students to Benin to build schools. That is about the only relationship I have with Benin. Ghana became our second home, which didn't have the naturalization process anyway. You can just come and go. Even the citizens are born and die. The government never knew they came. So anyway, and then I started living in other countries. So you see, I became a child of the world. But I'm not saying that is, and this is my home today. So with its faults and its glorious days, I would do whatever I can as long as I live here. I would have done the same if I were in Ghana, if I was in Benin, Nigeria. It's the United States of America. Let's just do the best we can to make this place beautiful for all of us with the short time we have to live. So if you were alive just last week, July 4, the year of the Lord 2026, in the next 10, 20, 15, when you have your grandchildren, you will share with them. I knew how old I was, where I was when the United States of America turned 250 years old. Let's do the best we can for this country. And let's leave the rest to the future. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe, follow, share. This is ZPR, Zanu Project Rethink. I'll see you again. Be blessed and be safe.